to the weightlifting portion of CrossFit Syntax here. I'm going to go over a very common fault that I see people do pretty much every day whenever they're picking weight up from the floor, whether that be snatch, clean, or deadlift. So I want to give you a few things that you can kind of keep in mind as you're setting up from the floor. First of all, to help you hold tight, help you get that position, and then also to help you maintain it as you pick it up from the floor and go through the rest of the lift. So the first thing is stance, okay? So when I'm working with people initially doing the snatch and the clean progressions, I start from the top down, so overhead squat or front squat, and then go down to the body. And at that point I set them up with a general power stance, okay? And that power stance is usually hip to shoulder width apart. That's going to kind of be the optimal stance that we're looking for, the stance that you're going to be able to exert the most power into the barbell with. But I'm not really going to know specifically what that individual stance is until I see them pick a weight up from the floor. For a lot of people that come through have flexibility issues, and a stance that is this narrow, about hip width apart, is going to lock their flexibility up, going to lock their ability to set that back from the floor. So if that's the case, we need to find them their stance of most flexibility. And for a lot of people, that may be maybe slightly outside of the shoulders, with the toes quite a bit more turned out. Now, that's not necessarily optimal, but you as CrossFitters, you're going to do these lifts anyways, no matter what. So let's find that stance that's going to allow you to set that back solid from the very beginning. So, stance, we need to find that. You bend over. You're going to set your back from the very beginning. We need that thing to be locked in very solid. So for a lot of people, again, say take a stance that if somebody's trying to teach you to use a power stance with your feet straight and your feet very close together, because that's where you do a vertical jump from, that's going to be very scrunched in. Even for those people that can do kind of whatever they want, they have plenty of flexibility, plenty of overall athletic ability, and they can do whatever they want, there's still going to be that stance of most potential. So experiment with your stance. Even if that's a little wider, if that's what allows you to set that back, go with that, okay? Another thing I want you to pay attention to is the position of your knees. So what I see a lot of people doing is they'll get a nice, good, strong, solid power stance, but their knees will be way squeezed in like this, okay? So what I want you to do is flare those things out, okay? Flare those things out. In the snatch, they can be kind of right up against your elbows there. In the clean, too, you're going to be forcing those pretty much out against your hands. So just don't let those things be in too close. When you stand up with that weight comparable to a squat, don't let those knees come in. Really work to force those out. That's just going to be a better, with those knees open, that's going to open your flexibility up a little bit, or create room, so to speak, to set those hips down and to be able to hold that thing tight. Just as a side note, that's also a stronger position for the leg, and it's going to activate the body quite a bit better for a stronger position for you. Okay? So pay attention to your feet, your knees. Another very, very important thing is that you focus on your breathing. When I first came into the CrossFit community, before I'd done a whole lot of WODs, I'd look at people doing their WODs and their back would be really rounded, really loose, and I would wonder, why can't these people set their back? And it becomes pretty easy once you do a couple CrossFit WODs and you're breathing very hard and you can't catch your breath, and therefore you can't really lock yourself in the best that you possibly can. So it started to make perfect sense to me. But when you're practicing perfect, or when you're doing your low rep, high weight snatch, clean, or deadlift, make sure that you're focusing on that breathing. And what I mean is that you take a deep, deep breath before you go, and then you're going to hold it throughout the whole lift, okay? So I've got my power stance, my stance of flexibility. I'm going to push my knees out. I'm going to get down here and get set into my position. And I'm going to hold my breath, as big of a breath as I can, throughout the whole lift. So look at that as bracing yourself for the biggest possible base. So if I fill my lungs the most I possibly can, I'm going to have that bigger base. Stance as well. Let's go back to that stance. In here, you're in close. You don't have that big of a base. Let's open that thing up a little bit. Weightlifting is about creating your optimal bases as well. We need big base when we're trying to lift big weight. So take that big breath. That will help. That will take you a long way. Now, when you're practicing perfect like this, and you're taking that big deep breath, and you're holding it through and getting that best possible quality, that's going to begin to carry over to your WODs as well. So even in your WODs, when you're breathing heavy and you're having trouble setting yourself, practice perfect with your heavy loads. You're going to be stronger even when your breath is kind of out. Okay, so it's very important for those purposes as well. Another thing I want you to pay attention to when you're picking this thing up from the floor is your rhythm from the floor. Okay, what I mean by that is you're not in the snatch and the clean particularly. You're not going to make the lift with speed from the floor. Okay, so if you're hearing that little knock there in the very beginning, that means you've ripped it from the floor, and then we don't want you to go too fast after that. We want a controlled, deliberate speed, and then a good building from there. Okay, so make sure you're paying attention to that. Look at it this way: the faster you go, the more you rip it, the faster you go from the floor, the more likely you are to break in your back or to lose your position as you come through the rest of the lift. Same thing's true on the other end. The slower you go, especially in the beginning, while you're learning these lifts, the more likely you are to hold that tension, that good quality tension in the back, and hold your good positions that we're trying to get you to create throughout the rest of the lift. Speed on the bar should be created up above the knee after you create those good positions with that bar close to the body through extension. That's the speed that we want. That's where we want the speed on the bar. Okay. So that's all I got for you today. I want to say thanks to Progenex for helping me get this video out to you guys. Definitely the best recovery supplement that I've found throughout my 15-year career. So as a review, make sure stance and flexibility. Knees out. I'm going to breathe. Hold my breath tight through the whole lift.